Welcome back. Today, we are diving into a topic that is impossible to ignore right now. You see it in every shop window, you hear it on the radio, and you probably feel it in your wallet. We are talking about Christmas.
It is the season that takes over everything. It is fascinating because it is this massive global event, but everyone experiences it so differently. For some, it is pure magic. For others, let's be honest, it is a logistical nightmare.
That is exactly where I want to start, the feeling of it. Because on paper, it sounds great: family, food, gifts, snow. But in reality, December feels like a race against time. Why do we do this to ourselves every year?
That is the big question. I think it comes down to expectation versus reality. We have this perfect image in our heads. You know the one, the family sitting by the fire. Everyone is smiling, the dinner is not burnt, and the kids are behaving. It is the movie version of Christmas.
Right? The Hallmark movie version. But real life is messy. The turkey is dry, the kids are fighting over a toy, and you forgot to buy a gift for your uncle.
Exactly. And that gap between the perfect image and the messy reality is where the stress comes from. But we keep doing it because of nostalgia. We are chasing a feeling from the past. When you were a child, Christmas was magic because you didn't have to do the work. You just showed up.
That is such a good point. As adults, we become the makers of the magic. We are the ones staying up late, wrapping gifts, and cooking for 6 hours. It changes the dynamic completely. But let's talk about the traditions. Even if it is stressful, we cling to them. The tree, for example. Why do we bring a dying tree into our living room?
It is a strange custom when you think about it objectively. Here is a pine tree. Let's put it in the corner and cover it with glass balls. But it goes back a long way. Originally, in Germany, it was about bringing life inside during the dead of winter. It was a symbol that nature is still alive even when everything outside is frozen.
So it is a symbol of hope?
Precisely. It wasn't until the Victorian era in England, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, that it became the fashionable Christmas tree we know today. Once they were drawn in a newspaper standing around a tree with their children, the whole world wanted one. It was the original viral trend.
That is funny. So we are basically following a trend from the 1,840 seconds. What about the gifts? Because that seems to be the main engine driving the season now. Has it always been this commercial?
Not at all. That is a much more modern invention. Historically, gifts were small, maybe some fruit, some nuts, or a handmade wooden toy. It was a gesture. The massive commercialization really kicked off in the 20th century. Retailers realized that if they could attach the idea of love to buying things, they could make a fortune.
And it worked. Now, if you don't spend a certain amount of money, people feel like you don't care. It is almost like we have monetized affection.
That is a harsh way to put it, but it is true. We often use gifts as a shortcut for connection. It is easier to buy an iPad than to sit down and have a deep conversation. But I think we are seeing a shift. Have you noticed people talking more about experiences lately?
I have. A lot of my friends are saying, no gifts this year. Let's just go for a nice dinner, or let's take a trip. Do you think we are reaching a breaking point with the stuff?
I think so. Our houses are full. We are cluttered. And people are realizing that the happiness you get from opening a box lasts about 5 minutes. But the memory of a terrible family board game night? That lasts forever.
Oh, the board games. That is a tradition in my house. It always starts peaceful and ends with someone flipping the board over. But you are right. Those are the stories we tell years later. We don't talk about the sweater we got in 2015. We talk about the time the dog ate the turkey.
Exactly. The imperfections make the memories. And speaking of the turkey, let's talk about the food. Because Christmas is basically a permission slip to eat everything in sight for a month.
It really is. The diet starts in January, right? But the food is different everywhere. In the US and UK, it's the turkey. But I know in other places, it is totally different.
It is huge. In Japan, for example, it is a tradition to eat KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, on Christmas.
Wait, really? Fast food?
Yes, it was a brilliant marketing campaign in the 1,970 seconds. Kentucky for Christmas. Now, people place orders weeks in advance. It shows that traditions are not these ancient, sacred laws. They are just habits that stuck. In Australia, because it is summer, they are often having a barbecue on the beach.
That sounds amazing, actually. No snow, just sun and shrimp. But looking back at the classic Christmas, we have to talk about the big guy, Santa Claus. How did a saint turn into a man in a red suit who lives at the North Pole?
It is a bit of a remix. You had Saint Nicholas, a real Greek bishop who was famous for secretly giving gifts to the poor. Then you mix in some British folklore about Father Christmas, who was more about feasting and partying. Then, Dutch immigrants brought Sinterklaas to America.
And then Coca-Cola finished the job?
They certainly polished the image. The artist Haddon Sundblom drew Santa for Coke ads in the 1,930 seconds. And he solidified that look. The rosy cheeks, the big white beard, the specific shade of red. Before that, Santa was sometimes drawn as a tall, thin elf or wearing green or brown. We basically worship a mascot.
That is wild. We tell our kids this elaborate story, and we all agree to lie to them for a few years. It is a massive global conspiracy of parents.
It is, but it is a benevolent conspiracy. It teaches children about invisible magic. It teaches them to believe in something they cannot see, which is actually a very important cognitive step. And then, when they find out the truth, it is a rite of passage. They join the adult club who keeps the secret for the younger ones.
I like that perspective. It's not a lie, it's a shared story. But let's go back to the feeling of the season. For a lot of people, Christmas can be lonely. If you don't have that big, loud family, or if you have lost someone recently, the joy everywhere can make you feel worse.
That is the shadow side of the bright lights. Psychologists call it the holiday blues. When society demands that you be happy, any sadness you feel becomes twice as heavy. You feel like you are failing at Christmas.
So how do we handle that? If we aren't feeling the holly jolly spirit?
I think we need to lower the bar. We need to stop trying to create a magazine cover. If you want to spend Christmas ordering pizza and watching movies in your pajamas, that is valid. The spirit of Christmas shouldn't be about performance. It should be about peace.
Peace is a good word. It gets lost in the noise of the shopping malls.
It does. And historically, this time of year, the winter solstice was about rest. The harvest was done. The fields were frozen. Humans were meant to slow down, sleep more, and huddle together for warmth. Now we do the opposite. We speed up, we run around, we burn out. We are fighting our biology.
That explains why I am so tired by December 25th. I'm trying to sprint when my body wants to hibernate.
Precisely. Maybe the best gift you can give yourself is permission to do less. You don't have to bake 10 types of cookies. Store-bought is fine. You don't have to visit 5 different houses in one day. It is okay to say no.
That is hard though. Family obligation is a powerful force. If you don't come, grandma will be upset.
It is a negotiation. But remember, a stressed, angry guest is worse than an absent one. If you show up to dinner resentful, everyone feels it. But if we strip it all away, take away the Santa, the turkey, the gifts, what is left at the core?
I guess it is just connection.
Connection and generosity. Not just money generosity, but generosity of spirit. It is the one time of year where we actually look at our neighbors and acknowledge them. We send cards to people we haven't seen in 10 years just to say, I am still here, and I remember you. That is powerful.
It is. It's a yearly check-in. We are all still spinning on this rock together.
And there is a specific atmosphere on Christmas Eve. Have you noticed? The world seems to get quieter. The shops finally close. The traffic stops. There is this heavy, beautiful silence.
I love that moment. It feels like the world is taking a deep breath before the new year resets everything.
That is the real magic. It is a pause button. In a world that never stops scrolling and never stops working, Christmas is the one mandated pause. Even if you don't celebrate the religious aspect, that cultural pause is vital for our mental health.
So, as we wrap this up, what is the strategy for a good Christmas? How do we survive the chaos and actually enjoy it?
My advice? Focus on the micro moments. Forget the grand gestures. Focus on the smell of the coffee on Christmas morning, the look on someone's face when they open a small gift, the taste of the food. Be present.
Presence over presence.
I see what you did there. But yes, absolutely. And kindness. Everyone is stressed. The cashier is stressed. The driver next to you is stressed. A little bit of extra patience goes a long way.
That is great advice. We are all in the same boat, navigating the same storm of wrapping paper and family drama.
And trying to keep the cat away from the tree.
Always the cat. But whether you celebrate with a massive party, a bucket of KFC, or just a quiet day off, we hope you find that moment of peace.
Indeed. Don't let the pressure steal the joy. The season is what you make of it, not what the commercials tell you it should be.
Perfect. Thanks for breaking this down with me. It makes me feel a little more ready to face the shopping mall parking lot.
Good luck out there. You will need it.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you on the other side of the holidays.
Happy Christmas.